message appeal. We may be able to win that way, but in the process we'll have sacrificed the soul of the movement. Imagine, if you will, an environment where you can smoke pot all you like, as long as you're willing to conform to somebody else's standards of appearance and lifestyle, religion, or sexual persuasion. This movement is, as you all know very well, about personal freedom, liberty of lifestyle, choosing for oneself that which one does in the privacy of one's home, or the sanctity of one's own body, bloodstream, and bladder. We will never win without broad mainstream support and acceptance. But I believe that we must be mindful to carefully honor the cultural diversity and differences as we mainstream our message. And after saying all that, I want to devil's advocate for a minute about grassroots activism. And I think this may be touched a little bit more by some of our other speakers. Grassroots activism, I believe, is essential, but can also, it's a two-way street. The people that are working from the top down, from the grass tops, are working very hard dealing with these perceptions about the whole marijuana culture, and images of angry people in the streets with their fists raised on the front page of the paper doesn't really help them, I think. And well-meaning, irate, outrageous citizen activists who challenge officials and attend legislative hearings and stuff with an aggressive, negative tone, an adversarial tone, I think really hurts the movement. And because of my appearance, I don't attend a whole lot of legislative hearings. I'm serious. I leave that up to some other people because I know that in some areas my appearance is a liability. And and I think that everybody should have the right, and I demand the right to look and live the way that I want to. But I also know that there's a role that I play in the movement, and there's a time that I need to step back and allow other people that have the proper image. I'll use an example for that. Dominic is working with the ACLU right now. He's a former director of Seattle Hempfest, and I specifically requested and asked Dominic to be our media spokesperson to stay on with Hempfest in that capacity. I did that for two reasons. First of all, he's the best person that I know that can pull the job off because he's so articulate and he phrases his words so well, and he has such a great overview and small view. But also, Dominic has the appearance, a more youthful appearance. He's actually not as young as he looks, by the way. I was going to point that out. He's got good genes going on. He's approaching 30 years of age. But he has the appearance that we need to put forward to the public. And I understand that. I think it's very important that all the grassroots activists, of course, which many of them look very mainstream, but I think that all of us really need to understand that. How am I doing on time, Don?
We're narrowing in.
Okay. See what I mean? That's what I'm talking about with this choice of words. I want to mention something very short, then I had something I want to talk about, but I want to just shorten it up. I think that the cannabis reform movement, in some ways, is missing the boat on one issue that I feel very strongly about, and it doesn't really touch on grassroots or grass tops activism, I guess, but I want to just very succinctly talk about it very quickly. I believe that marijuana abuse prevention education as a national platform is absolutely vital and mandatory to the success of the cannabis policy reform movement. I believe that taking a classic harm reduction approach is really important, but I think that it's a real problem that there's a public perception based partially in truth that the marijuana policy reform movement and movement activists aren't very concerned about marijuana abuse. And probably because marijuana abuse pales in comparison with hard drug abuse and alcohol abuse as far as the effects. But I am a former cocaine and I am a cocaine and methamphetamine addict who's been in recovery for many years, and I'm extremely sensitive that the message that we have, at Hempfest, there's tens of thousands of very young people, teenies, tweenies, sometimes people even younger than that. And I'm very sensitive that they may misinterpret or misperceive our message as a sex, drugs, and rock and roll message rather than the peace, love, and understanding message that we're trying to put forward. And I think that the cannabis policy reform movement not only has a tremendous responsibility to co-opt the only legitimate argument our opposition has, which is youth use and abuse. And if we can do that, we can negate them and give them absolutely no legitimacy whatsoever. I also believe that not only do we have a great opportunity because we have the street cred that it might take to actually reach people. Are we not hiring enough at Hempfest? Come on, you know. Are we selling out? But also, we have a tremendous responsibility to reach out and to cover that base. Because, you know, I love smoke marijuana. I smoke a lot of marijuana. But smoking's not good for the lungs. And even though, you know, times have changed. When I was an addict, it was in the 70s, and things were very different. But genetic predisposition to addiction and abuse has not changed at all. Au contraire, the pressures and responsibilities of everyday life in America has increased. And also the age of experimentation has decreased as well. So I just think it's a vital component that we adopt a national strategy and policy of advancing proactively marijuana abuse education, prevention education, and I think just start very early on before children have a chance to even be presented with marijuana. Not the most popular concept when we're talking with, but that's okay. And finally, in closing, I use Seattle Hempfest literally throughout my presentation because that's where the majority of my experience lies. Hempfest is an amazing phenomenon to me, and every year Hempfest is on the part of our group literally an act of faith. And I'm proud of what Hempfest has achieved, but I'm also aware of its limitations and its shortcomings, which are partially the result of the limits of our leadership, my own leadership. I receive a lot of praise and adulation for the success of Hempfest to date, but I must confess that there are hundreds of people who share every bit of responsibility for everything good that Hempfest has achieved. I also want to state that although I know that Hempfest is a good thing for the movement in general, and as the Washington State chapter of NORML, I feel that we as the Washington State chapter of NORML, I feel that we are woefully inadequate in terms of enlisting new NORML memberships and in advocating for NORML in general. We have been, but it's something that we're really going to change this year and going to beef up. Just bordering our state is the home of what appears to me to be one of the most terrifically effective state chapters, Oregon NORML, and I want to give kudos to that one of my teams right there. Have you seen their website? Wow. And we intend to reach out for guidance on how we may better improve our standing as a proud state chapter of the original and authentic, internationally renowned advocate of cannabis policy reform. I'm getting acid tongue up here. I don't know what's happening. But that's another conference. And I want to say, lastly, that Alan and Keith have been tremendously supportive and tolerant in this fashion. And, you know, when I call either one of them up in Washington, D.C., they answer the phone. They're right there. They take as much time as they can possibly take out. I think Alan may have some Vulcan in him or something, because he was rambling off all these concepts to me so fast. I was taking notes, and then later I looked at my notes, and I could hardly, I took good notes, but I could hardly process all this stuff. You have incredible leadership within this organization. It's amazing. It's astounding. And I just really want to once again reiterate the accessibility, the tolerance, the diversity, the openness that NORML offers that some other very reputable organizations haven't yet achieved. Thank you very much. I'm very proud to be at a table with such people. I don't think that I belong at this table, but I'm very thankful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Our panel started about 45 minutes late, so we're going to run over the scheduled time. I think they're scheduled to finish at about 11:45. It'll a little bit longer than that. I went to a drug policy reform coordinating group of King County meeting. It's a long name for a meeting, we know. And this guy showed up, someone I'd never seen before. And everything he said was so on point, and he was so smart, and he seemed to have just come out of the ether. Well, wow, who is this guy? And it wasn't until I read through a little bit of what he's doing and what he's done that it started to make sense. He's a fourth-year MD and PhD at the University of Washington School of Medicine in Seattle. And he's an active member of the Washington Physicians for Social Responsibility. He's a member of their board. Please welcome Sunil Agarwal.
Bad word. I mean, a very, very bad word. A stigma through and through. And it wasn't until many years after I left Muskogee and when I came to University of California.